Today's forensic scientists are bracing for the next wave of crime. A new generation of crime fighters are blazing the trail with a startling array of forensic weapons.
Did you, in fact, shoot and kill Richard Stewart?
No.
Over the next year, you're going to see the use of facial recognition deployments rise dramatically.
Our response time is measured in seconds, not minutes.
The average person living in an urban center is captured on videotape 8 to 12 times a day. So is the criminal population.
There are always going to be new methods, and we always have to make these decisions. How reliable are they?
It's the beginning of a new digital era. The era where forensic science faces future crime. Two months of forensic investigation has come to this: a police manhunt for a murderer on the loose. New technologies have narrowed a long list of suspects down to one man. Revolutionary digital devices have gathered evidence that no human investigator could decipher. Now it's up to police to capture the criminal.
Air 1 Control, we're just arriving on scene now. We got one male running to a vehicle now.
If forensic scientists are right, the murderer has been identified without a single human witness to his crime.
10-4, the vehicle is continuing. It's still westbound Collin Road.
21st century investigators seek to catch criminals with new kinds of evidence obtained by a new type of forensic expert. Hamish Stewart is a professor of criminal law at the University of Toronto.
When you're looking at new forensic technologies, the court's going to want to be satisfied that there are methodologies there that can be tested, that can be examined critically, that can be used to obtain reliable results.
The crime was committed 2 months earlier at a desolate suburban strip. The killer waits for his target, a typical mob hit. The victim arrives, going about his business as he does every Sunday. Not knowing this one is his last. The shooter escapes. To all appearances, there are no witnesses. He does not know he has left a digital trail for modern CSIs to follow. Carl Adrian is a crime scene diagrammer at the FBI.
My particular job has to deal with crime scene investigations, and I specialize specifically in crime scene diagramming, 2D, 3D, computer animation. Included in those skills is artist composites as well as skull reconstructions. So the process is to gather all the technical and forensic information contained within the scene, work with the medical examiner and all other aspects of experts that are involved and put it all together into a three-dimensional world, the world of which the incident occurred in.
Adrian demonstrates his work at the FBI Academy outside Washington, D.C. The training ground is called Hogan's Alley. To all appearances, it's a suburban town. These ordinary streets are used to reconstruct crimes. Agents play the roles of killers and victims in a training exercise that recreates a street shooting. First, the FBI's response unit applies tried and true traditional methods to investigate the crime scene.
When I first started with the Bureau a little over 19 years ago, crime scene diagramming was done by hand. We had drafting boards, and it was pretty much a lot of drafting. We'd go out, take physical measurements on the site, primarily using measuring tapes, and when necessary, we'd go out and hire a surveyor for doing topology. And we would take this information and go back to our drawing boards at the office and draw out our crime scenes in 2 dimensions, which is basically a floor plan.
Now the FBI is experimenting with digital imaging. This device takes measurements using a single laser beam signal, while a handheld prism sends precise details back to the surveyor. The device is pinpoint accurate, but time-consuming. So the FBI is forging a new path with a technology that is barely in its infancy: 3-dimensional laser scanning.
The newest technology that we have acquired here at the FBI laboratory is 3D laser scanning. This technology allows you to set up on a tripod the scanner, which is hooked up to a laptop, and what you see is pretty much what it captures. And it's doing it at a high rate of speed. You can scan a crime scene approximately within 30 minutes or less.
Mirrors spinning at up to 2,500 revolutions per minute deploy an array of laser beam signals all over the scene, measuring distance, angles, even colors. No detail escapes detection. The scan takes minutes, not hours. The result is a 360-degree digital image with such dense resolution that it actually looks like a photograph.
You can set it up, move it, do multiple scans, and the software will allow you to stitch all this information together and create a 3-dimensional scene that is exactly what you see. It includes all your topology. It includes right down to the leaves on a tree. It's quite amazing technology.
Adrian was a CSI on the Oklahoma City bombing in 1995. Had this 3D technology existed then, his job would have been a lot easier and a lot safer.
And one of the problems with a scene of that size, where you have a building that's literally been devastated and a number of buildings, is gathering the information. So when you're getting into dangerous areas where you have buildings and bombs that have been exploded by terrorists, you don't want to lose life while you're responding to a scene. And this has happened, from falling debris, whatever the case may be.
The digital image allows investigators to fly through the area without disturbing the evidence. This virtual reality trip to the crime scene is a powerful courtroom tool.
So the animation that occurs in a courtroom is not acting out a scenario. It's building the scenario and moving the camera through the scene. This allows us to let the jury literally do a walkthrough without actually ever being there.
Still, legal experts warn that even precise 3D laser scans are not foolproof.
Suppose you have a crime scene analyst who says that he can make for you a 3-dimensional recreation of the crime scene. Now, that would be a wonderful tool for investigative purposes. In many cases, it would also be very helpful to a jury. But whenever you have a process of reconstructing what went on, you inevitably have interpretive decisions that you have to make about what does this mean and how does it fit with something else. And the farther back you go in time from the crime scene as the analyst found it, the larger those interpretive elements are going to become.
Field investigators insist that this technology will help put more criminals behind bars.
In the past, these type of people who have committed these types of crimes have gotten off because they've not been able to prove to a jury beyond a reasonable doubt that this is what occurred.
Devices like the laser scanner turn people into pixels. Murderers are a matrix of dots and lines for the digital CSI to analyze. And another electronic scanner proves that the face is as unique as the fingerprint. Over a century ago, forensic investigators learned that no two fingerprints are alike. This knowledge marked a revolution in crime scene investigation. Now, forensic experts have discovered that fingerprints are just the beginning. Every criminal has a unique biological signature. This new science is called biometrics, and it is the future of CSI. Computerized face recognition is the new fingerprinting. Ashley Kelly is with Axis Biometrics, a Canadian company.
Access Biometrics created a facial recognition solution based off of what we call holographic quantum neural technology. In its simplest form, it's an advanced mathematical formula based on how the brain works.
Please step here and please watch the camera.
When we meet an individual, we store a memory representation of them in our brain. And what we have done is really taught the computer how to do exactly the same thing, to store that information, to continually update it, and define what is unique about you compared to everybody else that we've met in our lifetime.
Now turn your head slowly to the left. Please turn your head
21st century criminals will be processed by a computer that can see facial differences in billions of individuals. Video obtained from the crime is digitized into the computer. It looks for distinct shots of the killer and creates a three-dimensional mental image of him in its memory bank. The computer takes hundreds of pictures and compares his likeness with every other individual in its database.
Every individual has a number of different characteristics or physical features about them that are specifically unique to that person. Biometrics can be used for iris, fingerprint, facial recognition, voice verification. They're going as far as looking at ear recognition. Those are particular body parts or physical components that make you unique compared to everybody else in the world. When you start accumulating that data and comparing it against other individuals, you have a process for identifying or defining a difference between those people.
The computer identifies the suspect as the man photographed at the crime scene.
Facial recognition complete. The suspect is Tony White.
This information will be relayed to police, who will make him a prime suspect in their investigation. It's powerful evidence obtained by an electronic witness.
The access system captures information the same way that we capture information as an individual. We take information that we already know about an individual and pass that over very quickly on people that are going by us until we recognize the person we're looking for. We create a little memory engram in a mathematical formula and enfold as much information into the same space as we can to create a very clear picture of an individual. That template, that memory engram, is then stored in the computer and used as a reference point against all of the other people that it's ever met.
The technology behind facial recognition is staggeringly complex. The computer is a form of artificial intelligence with the endless capacity to learn. Even disguises cannot fool it for long.
It is capable of learning and distinguishing patterns and image differences between individuals. So the more that you are presented to the system, the more accurate the information is going to become. So much like when I meet you, I will understand, today what you look like. Tomorrow, if you come in with a different hairstyle or different glasses, I still have the ability to vaguely recognize you. The system does exactly the same thing. It continues to update itself.
In the wake of September 11, research and development in facial recognition has exploded. In North America and Europe, the technology is about to be put to the test.
Over the next year, you're going to see the use of facial recognition deployments rise dramatically. You'll see it in airport solutions and law enforcement applications and a lot of building security or access control solutions. Fed with the appropriate inbound information that is gathered through the intelligence community, and you target that information to where you think your suspect might be coming through. Just having it blindly thrown around really is not going to be that beneficial.
Though still in its early stages of development, facial recognition has already raised an uproar about privacy rights.
Well, the proliferation of video surveillance cameras raises an issue of political decision-making that goes well beyond the question of whether they're reliable. Even if they're extremely reliable, you still might want to ask yourself, do you want to live in a society where your every move is potentially capturable by video, potentially observed by an agent of the state or by a private individual, potentially kept permanently so that your movements could be reconstructed on any given day? This kind of society would be one in which we would have very little privacy left.
Law enforcement must learn how to balance the digital revolution with individual rights, a necessary factor as investigators face the future. In a typical day, the average North American is caught on camera 8 to 12 times. In the United Kingdom, that number is a staggering 200.
Forensic video is a silent witness. Video has no opinion.
Jerry Lana is a forensic video analyst with the Ontario Provincial Police.
If you just think of yourself when you get in your car in the morning and you stop for gas, you're on video. You get on the highway, you're on video. You stop for milk after work, you're on video. Most places of employment have video, and so on and so forth.
Security camera evidence is so widespread that police forces all over the world have created video analysis units. These digital detectives use powerful computer tools to extract evidence from flawed footage.
I think the important thing that a forensic video analyst does is to preserve the integrity of the original videotape exhibit that comes into his possession, meaning getting the videotape put into the digital world through various forensic nonlinear video editing systems. Once the videotape is captured into the digital world, the videotape can be viewed frame by frame in order to gain identifiable marks of a suspect individual, markings on clothing, tattoos, etc. for court presentation and investigations.
Hamish Stewart is an expert in the law of evidence.
The argument that video evidence or video reconstruction is better than eyewitness evidence, there's some merit to that argument. And because it's well recognized in the psychological literature that faulty eyewitness identification is very common, that people can easily be led to believe that they saw someone at the crime scene when in fact they saw him later or in a different context and transferred the image back to the crime scene. This is a very common phenomenon. And so there is a sense in which the claim that video evidence is better than eyewitness evidence is true.
Brian Dalrymple is a forensic photographer who has witnessed the digital revolution.
There's a huge difference between analog and digital imaging. Analog imaging is conventional photography. It has served us very well over the years, but now the advent of digital imaging has allowed us to extend our reach forensically. There are two huge advantages that digital imaging has over photography. The first one is sensitivity, and the second one is control. In terms of control, In a digital image, it's composed of building blocks called picture elements or pixels. Each one of those has its own address within the image, sort of like the kids' game Battleship. This means that the user of a digital image has complete control over every building block of the image.
Dalrymple demonstrates this point with a simple test. A footprint is a common piece of evidence at a crime scene. Dalrymple takes a series of digital photographs. The footprint is then vacuumed away to create a clean background photograph.
The second image, which contains just the background, would be subtracted by computer from the first image, leaving a much clearer and much more useful impression of the foot, which can then be compared to anything that comes up in the investigation.
Digital imaging has transformed forensic investigation. Photographs will be as incriminating as fingerprints for tomorrow's CSI. Today's forensic computers contain a palette of special effects tools to help find evidence that the human eye cannot see.
What I want to do is take the suspect and the footage that I think looks the best from an identifiable standpoint, and possibly where he looks at the security camera or looks into the bank unknowingly that there's a security camera inside, which would be a pretty good shot right there. And then I'm going to apply a forensic plug-in called Magnifier to it. And with Magnifier, it enables me to set a bounding box or a target point around the suspect and close in on him.
By removing pixels and unnecessary information, digital investigators can retrieve incriminating data. A night shot of a bank robber's car is highlighted to reveal a license plate number. In another case, digitally enhanced video identifies a shooter and even the shooting.
And in fact, to see if the handgun did go off. And as I run through the video frame by frame here, you can see that a flash from the gun does happen. And perhaps without spotlight, we wouldn't be able to see that flash to prove if the gun did go off or not. And there you can see the flash from the pistol.
Spotlight enhances difficult-to-see images to help investigators identify the suspect.
Spotlight essentially narrows your image for viewing down to essentially what you want to look at. I can take my background and just get rid of it so that there's nothing misleading when it's shown in court. As the video is dark, I can attempt to brighten up his image. So you can see that from the original video footage, which was this to this, it's much easier to try to identify a suspect.
And liftoff of the 25th Space Shuttle mission, and it has cleared the tower.
Forensic video is not new.
Challenger, go with throttle up. Challenger, go with throttle up.
When the Space Shuttle Challenger exploded in 1986, video analysts examined the footage to help determine the technical flaw that caused the accident. What is new is the universal acceptance of video as evidence in criminal investigations.
I think that the newest part of video analysis is that now the technology has gotten cost efficient enough or cheap enough for police departments to start analyzing video in a nonlinear fashion.
Dude did a flying kick, man. Look at him.
Shaky home video footage of a riot is hard to make out. In the confusion, someone is shot. With forensic video, the footage is stabilized. Investigators can identify the shooter. The cameraman follows the panicked crowd. Again, it's impossible to distinguish individuals. But with stabilization and spotlight, one man is identified by his clothes. Returning to the original footage, police can now compare their suspect to the shooter. Forensic video has incriminated him for a crime that he would have gotten away with just a few years ago. Surprisingly, criminals have not caught on to the multi-camera world in which they perpetrate their crimes.
In my experience, and I'm speaking from personal experience, I have only run into 1 or 2 cases out of the last 1,000 cases in the last few years that I've been doing video analysis of where the suspect has actually taken the videotape from wherever the crime occurred. And I feel that either criminals don't care or they just simply forget, and they just they don't have the wherewithal to know where the videotape is located and how to grab the videotape.
The United Kingdom takes closed-circuit television surveillance seriously. Cameras overlook almost every street in every city. Even London buses are outfitted with cameras. And these images don't just get recorded on tape. They're monitored real-time by local police. It's a delicate balance of the law and civil liberties.
There's undoubtedly a trade-off there between capturing criminals and privacy. I'm not saying where the trade-off is. I'm simply saying we ought not to embrace this technology simply because of its reliability. There are other concerns as well.
Still, forensic investigators believe it's a worthwhile trade-off if cameras help catch criminals in the act. While forensic video, laser scanners, and face recognition work with pictures, another new digital technology examines sounds. Tomorrow's killer may put himself behind bars by the mere stress in his voice. Jim Masucci is a detective and a leading expert on voice stress analysis.
Every one of us has what they call a micro muscle in our larynx, which is an involuntary muscle. We cannot control it. And when we speak, that micro muscle exhibits a tremor. These tremors are recorded and they're passed through and digitized through some pretty sophisticated software. Okay, Mr. White and Detective Masucci.
Hi.
How you doing today?
I'm doing okay, thank you.
Okay.
How about you?
Good. I understand that you've agreed to answer some questions for us.
Yes, I have.
As you're aware now, we had a shooting downtown, and the man died. His name was Richard Stewart. You familiar with that?
No.
Voice stress analysis was a Cold War invention created by American intelligence to interrogate foreign spies. Law enforcement adopted the technology in the late 1990s. Today, over 1,000 police forces across the United States have turned to voice stress analysis as an alternative to the lie detector.
Let me explain briefly what the test is, okay? Have you ever taken a polygraph before?
No.
Okay. Have you ever seen one on TV?
Everybody has, yeah.
Okay. You know where they're hooked up, there's things hooked up to your arms, your stomach, your chest, your waist, everything?
Right.
With a voice stress analyzer, you're not hooked up to anything. Okay. I'm going to ask you a series of 14 questions. The answers to these questions is either a yes or a no, okay? Well, after a very thorough interrogation of a suspect, if you're not able to get the suspect to admit his guilt, if you think he's guilty, or his complicity in the crime, they'd be asked to take a voice stress analysis. And there is a pre-test interview where you would read them their rights, you would talk to them a little bit about the crime. You have to determine how they speak, their culture, what different words or phrases mean to them. If you understand it, you're willing to submit to the test, answer my questions, would you just sign it there, please?
I got nothing to hide.
Usually I explain to the people how the test works insofar as the micro muscle tremor, try to get them to understand that. Then I'll formulate the questions. Are you ready?
Absolutely.
Is today Wednesday?
Yes.
Are you afraid I'll ask you a question we've not discussed?
No.
Will you answer truthfully about the shooting death of Richard Stewart and the robbery?
Yes.
You like the color black?
Yes.
Do you know who shot and killed Richard Stewart?
No.
The microtremor is displayed as a waveform graphic on the computer.
You like the color pink?
No. No.
Did you have anything at all to do with the death of Richard Stewart?
No.
Do you like the color orange?
Yes.
Are you completely convinced that I won't ask you a question we've not discussed?
No.
Do you suspect someone specifically of shooting and killing Richard Stewart?
No.
Do you know for sure who shot and killed Richard Stewart?
No.
Did you in fact shoot and kill Richard Stewart?
No.
I don't know if I would go so far as to say nobody can beat the voice stress analyzer. The only thing I will say is nobody can control the amount of stress in their voice. I think that the only way that you could beat the voice stress analyzer is if you truly believe and you've truly talked yourself into the fact that you did not commit the crime or the offense. Do you feel stressed right now? Or?
Absolutely.
Okay, stressed because I'm asking you these questions?
Sure, over and over and over again.
Compact, cheap, and accurate. Many investigators believe voice stress analysis computers could replace the polygraph. But legal expert Hamish Stewart believes it must be used only as an investigative tool, never to convict.
The fear of judges and of the legal system generally has always been that jurors will tend to defer to experts. That if the expert says X, the jury will say, oh, well, fine, we don't have to think about this anymore. We believe X too. We want the jury to think through the evidence on their own. That's what they're there for. They're representatives of the community. They're using their common sense to reach a decision that will command respect in the community. That's what they're there for. So if they defer to experts, you wonder, why have the jury at all? Why not just call on the experts to answer the judge's questions?
Okay, Tony, obviously you and I have a difference of opinion on what happened here. Quite frankly, I don't believe that you didn't have anything to do at all with this crime. Okay.
Masucci's test confirms his suspicions that Tony White is the killer. For now, the suspect is free to go.
Cooperative again. Again, I thank you.
But investigators now have the evidence they need to launch their final maneuver. A camera in the sky. Police have long used air surveillance to catch criminals. Now they've added powerful cameras to support their search. Constable Rick Ross hunts criminals from the air.
Helicopter is very effective, again, in response time. Our response time is measured in seconds, not minutes.
The helicopter is a Bell Jet Ranger, designated Air 1, and provides 24-hour support to surface forces in areas around Toronto, Canada.
The helicopter has 30 times the visual range as an officer on the ground in a car. And effectively, statistically, they tell us it's worth really 15 two-man cars.
Rick Ross flies with pilot Bruce Buck, who's logged over 9,000 hours in the air. While Buck flies, Ross scans the area. Air 1 is equipped with powerful video cameras to help officers assess the threat and guide ground forces to the scene. It's video technology available in every household, supercharged for police surveillance.
Our average speed while we're traveling throughout the region, on average we're traveling about 175, 185 kilometers per hour. And again, our height, we're generally speaking at 1,000 feet. Depending on the seriousness of the incident, the aircraft, we can descend down and land if necessary.
But it's nighttime when the helicopter's capabilities are truly put to the test. Air One is armed with a powerful camera called an FLIR, or FLIR, acronym for Forward-Looking Infrared. The FLIR technology was developed by the U.S. military for night ops. It uses a finely tuned sensor that detects heat for any object above absolute zero. Even cold objects like snow and ice radiate a thermal image that the human eye cannot see. The FLIR turns that heat signature into an electronic signal that is then rendered into a video image that the human eye can see.
Basically, what our FLIR does, the capabilities it gives me, is being able to look in the darkness. Unlike night vision, you need a light source. You have to have some type of light source to see the ground. With the FLIR, infrared, you do not need a light source. Absolutely total darkness. What it does is it detects surface temperature. All from 1,000 feet up, looking into that darkness.
The helicopter is also equipped with a remote-controlled searchlight with 30 million candle power, a beam with enough intensity to turn night into day.
We have a light on the back. Our light is, we call it the night sun. Why? It's a night sun. It's that bright. I'm told when that light comes on, you're on the ground, it's daylight.
Air One's FLIR and Night Sun deliver the final blow as the killer races to escape.
Air One Control, we're just arriving on scene now. The vehicle's now westbound Conlon Road, westbound on Conlon. This is white van. Okay, the vehicle is leaving Conlon Road. It's turning southbound into a field. And we got door open, one exiting out the driver's side and running southbound. Suspect still running southbound in the field. The suspect's gone into some bushes there in the center of the field. He's crouched down in there. The suspect is still in the bush area in front of you.
Thermal imager, it is so sensitive that when at 1,000 feet, when there's a canine handler tracking with the dog, I can see the lead line.
The hitman is finally apprehended. He's been incriminated by forensic technologies for a crime that he would have gotten away with just a decade ago. Laser scanning, facial recognition, video analysis, voice stress interrogation, and finally, infrared imaging have all combined to catch him. But evidence expert Hamish Stewart says this FLIR aerial surveillance is also under scrutiny.
FLIR is, by the same token, very intrusive on people's privacy because with it, the operator can track the movement of people within a house. It's almost like the police being able to put a camera in your home, which is something that we would never accept as a general proposition. So in a recent case, the Ontario Court of Appeal said that the police had to get a warrant before they used the FLIR. And I actually think this is a good place to strike the balance, because by saying that the police have to get a warrant, the court is not saying that the police can never use the tool. What they're saying is the police can use the tool, but they must first demonstrate to an independent, neutral judicial officer that they have reasonable grounds to think that they might uncover some evidence by using this tool.
digital trail left by a criminal is stunning. New technologies can now amass evidence without a single human witness. The legal system is facing an electronic revolution.
If you can turn around and produce a crime scene in 3D, the jury is going to be able to get a better feel for what happened and what didn't happen.
But juries have to be reminded that digital evidence is only as reliable as the forensic experts who examine it.
If your video evidence has been clarified or enhanced by an expert, then again, that's going to raise these questions of interpretation. What decisions do you make in the process of clarifying or enhancing the video? Without the clarifications or enhancements, the video may be very blurry and very difficult for the trier of fact to use. But with the enhancements, it's been through a layer of interpretation, which again might be done differently by another analyst.
The word manipulate does not come into process of what I do. I do not manipulate videotape images. I simply clarify them for court presentation or investigations. I think that's very important to remember. Videotape evidence is not a fingerprint, and I understand that, and so do other video analysts that are doing the same job I do. I think it's important to remember that the integrity of the video analyst is at stake when she gets put on the stand in a court of law, and that they have to answer the relevant questions as to what they did to the videotape.
Investigators who are exploring the digital frontier emphasize that the new technologies are tools to help them do their job better. Nothing replaces sound forensics.
When you do voice stress analysis, you're supposed to also look at and pay attention to the global impression. And the global impression is just what you see and observe, and you correlate to your years of experience in interrogation. In other words, it's just a tool. You should not use it alone. You have to factor in the global impression of the whole situation.
However, some fear that an over-reliance on forensic gadgets may lead to quick convictions and critical mistakes.
There are always going to be new methods, and we always have to make these decisions. How reliable are they? We can't let the experts decide that for themselves, because of course they're going to say our methods are very reliable. You have to be able to persuade a court that the methods are reliable before they can be used in court. We also always have to decide how much of our other values are we willing to give up in embracing these technologies. That's always going to be a question that's going to have to be decided with respect to every new technology that comes along.
But the technological revolution in forensics cannot be stopped. Even the skeptics know that just 2 decades ago, DNA evidence was inadmissible. Today, it is a cornerstone of CSI.
Forensic science is a very dynamic science. Nothing has stayed the same in the 30 years I've been involved. And this means that you don't encounter the same situations time and time again. Every time you approach a new situation where there's something to be examined, everything is different. And you have this toolbox that has gained in complexity over the years and that you have to use specific to the occasion at hand. And it is just a tremendous thrill to be able to do that. And when you do find things, it's hard to match that feeling.
There's no denying that the technologies watching over us are spreading. In the future, we will all be photographed dozens, even hundreds of times a day. But this loss of privacy will also help catch criminals. It's a delicate balance that is being struck even today as the forensic experts explore new ways to face the future of crime.